Torah, the Pashas Teldes, page Yutches, top of the page. Okay. Okay, now the Rabbi is explaining this Inyan of Mayim Rabim, which refers to the Giluyim all the way up there, cannot quench the thirst. And he says that's the level of Rivka, Vateret Kada, Vateshek El Hashekesh, to lower the Chav Dalit Sifrei Kodesh, meaning through the level of Torah. But he says in order to understand this level of Rivka, we first need to understand the level of Yitzchak. See, now the Rebbe started explaining Yitzchak is a level Asad Lavai, Tzchaik Asad Lanu Alakim, and he says there's Shemesh Shemag and Hashem Alakim. The Shemesh is too great, so you need the Alakim, but nevertheless it's still the level of the Shemesh that's shining, okay? And that's the concept of Ovid Elokim, like the last thing we're learning, to refine the level of Ma'abataning, to refine the level of Elokim, and that causes the level of Tzchaik, and that's what he's in the middle of now. So he says, Mamish the top line, the main primary Tzchaik, what Hashem has pleasure from above, is Nim Shechayde Shem Elokim, is only through Elokim. Why? Like when the officers, the nobles, the dukes, they put on a show. So what's the uniqueness of the show? There's something new in it. They watch the way a lion rips apart the bear, and all these different types of things. From this newness, comes the level of Tainuk. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva that Hashem likes about Tshuva better than the Tzaddik. Why? Because about Tshuva is new. A Tzaddik is, the whole time SOS, same old. About Tshuva, who sinned and now is coming back, so Hashem enjoys it because it's something new. People get bored of the same old stuff. You like something new. So he says, the level of Ovid Elikim, to refine the level of Elikim, meaning the concept that the Yesh is Batul to Hashem, that's the level of his Chachus. Shaniv Roshanasa Yesh V'David Nifrit, that the Yesh that was a separate entity now becomes Levatel Asatzmi. Now it can have Bittul. But if Elokim would not be concealment, there would be just a revelation of Elokus, then Hashem wouldn't have any enjoyment from a revelation of Elokus, because the only thing that exists would be a revelation of Elokus. So what does Hashem make? He makes Elokim, concealment. You don't feel the bittul to Elokus, and now you become Bat. He said, without the level of Elokim that conceals, there wouldn't be any tainug at all. In what did he say? What did Avraham Avinu say? Elokim. He didn't say Hashem. Why did he say Elokim? Because the whole tzchaik, la'asad lavai, comes in the name of Elokim. The fact that there's a concealment of Elokus, and now Elokus becomes revealed, there was no bittul, and now becomes bittul, that's the tzchaik. And kein ika tzchaik v'atayna asal Elokim, hamas tiru mailim, that conceals, shabesibah, seinim shechataynog, that's why there's tainug. Why? Aydei bittul ayesh layin. That's why Hashem created evil in the world, because if there's no evil in the world and there's only good, and you do good, it's not any enjoyment. That's why there's no tainug of Hashem from Gan Eden. The tainug is only in this world. Mizgala, when will this ultimate tzchaik be? When you finish the job. Now we're in the middle of the job of Ovid Elikim. We're refining the concealment. But the ultimate shenish lam taking the shem Elokim, ukamei ba ma'aseh bereshis. Like at the beginning of creation, right? Vayechol hashemayim shebegmar kol hamalacha. At the end, nizgala tainuk. Mashen kibeshel nigmar hamalacha. If the work wasn't done yet, you don't get enjoyment. Like the explanation, a baby is born, everybody says mazel tov. The baby was there 9 months already. You know, so what's the mazel? Because now it's finished product. It comes out. It's simcha. It's gilui.
Is that one you're not getting paid?
Yeah. From whom? Oh. Trust me, you get paid. You woke up this morning. That's plenty payment. It's not. Huh? When he's busy doing the malacha. Now the middle of the job, transform darkness to light. When it's all going to be done, then it says, the Pnei Adam will become new. Then Hashem will have the simcha. Therefore it's called Yitzchak. With the Yud, it's going to eventually be the ultimate level of Tzchak Tainuk. Okay, this is the level of Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the level of transformation of Elokim to Havaya, darkness to light, bad to good, all that stuff is a new thing. It causes the bittul of the Yesh to the Ayin. It's a big thing.
So that's the highest level, Rabbi? Yitzchak is the highest
yeah.
level. Does Hashem keep every mitzvah that he does?
Yeah. That's what it says in the books.
Do we pay a day worker after he's finished working? Of course.
Not if he's in the middle of the job. We're not day workers. Even though Rabbi writes in a Yom Yom, Anan Pa'ala di Yamam Anan, which means simply we're day workers. But over there in the Yom Yom, the Rebbe explains, our job, Anam Pa'ala the Yamam, means literally Pa'ala workers, the Yamam of the day. He says, our Pa'ala, what is our job? Yamama to bring light. But we're still in the middle of the job. Similar what the Gemara says in famous Gemara in Brachas, Rabbi Yechanan, when he was dying, Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai, he was dying, the student came to visit him. So he saw him crying. So he said, why are you crying? What are you afraid of dying? You're going to Gan Eden. What's the... So he says, I see two paths before me, Gehenna and Gan Eden. I don't know where they're going to take me. They might take me to Gehenna, they might take me to Gan Eden. That's the Gemara. So Chassidus asked, Rabbi Yechanan said he never walked 4 Amos without Torah. Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai was super, super great. What do you mean he didn't know? So Chassidus explains, Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai, like a guy that has a business, yeah? You don't keep making a cheshbon on the business, how much you make or lose during the day. During the day you have to do business. When you close the store, you close the business. Then you come at night and you make a cheshbon. But if you're going to be making cheshbonis in the middle of the day, when are you going to do business? Right? So Chassidus explains, Rabbi Yechanan ben Zakkai was in the middle of a job. His whole life. His Avodah. So he had never had a cheshbon. He never had time to make a cheshbon. Where am I? Ayako, where am I? Now he's dying. So now he said, that's what he's saying over here. Now we're in the middle of a job. Hashem is going to give us. That's answer number 1. Answer number 2, I just told you. You woke up this morning, he paid you. Plenty. Correct. I agree. By Yitzchak it says, it's very funny, it's not funny, it's very interesting. Teresa statements that seem to be very mundane Okay, what happened was in this week's Parsha, yeah? He came to Avimelech, he took away Rivka, he told her it's my sister. So Avimelech, later on, Avimelech saw the way Yitzchak Metzachik as Rivka Ishti. He was having intimacy with Rivka. Yeah? Because he says, and now I'm safe. Yeah? So Avimelech screamed at him and said, obviously it's your wife, not your sister. Why are you... Okay. Obviously it's much deeper than that. The intimacy with his wife, I mean, that's what Torah is telling us. Yad Rebbe is explaining over here, Yitzchak Metzachik es Rivka. He's saying, Pirish, Kol Atzachek Vatainik Elyon. The Yitzchak, and now, where's the ultimate level of Yitzchak? Being Metzachek, which is the level of Yitzchak, through Es Rivka Ishtay, through Rivka.
Wow.
Why? The primary level of a transformation is Shaykh Benefesh Abama Sheba Adam. The Nefesh Shulikis does not have to be transformed. You don't have to be Mahapach, the Nefesh Shulikis to Kedusha. It is Kedusha. Where is the primary Nefesh Abama? Is Hapcha? B'tzvicha bir v'tikun nasis l'sakin ma she'enken the neshama atzma ain't tzarich tikun. Right? The neshama itself doesn't need tikun. The nefesh abamis needs tikun. Through the nefesh ulikis fixing the nefesh abamis, it becomes elevated. But the nefesh ulikis itself doesn't need anything, right? The nefesh abamis shosh mechayis merkavo. What's the source of the nefesh abamis? The chayis of the Mepnei Shad, because the Nefesh Abam is down here, is a behemah. Not a chay, it's a behemah. That comes from the shore of the Merkava. Or as it says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, it comes from the shmarim of the Ifanim. Okay? Kamei sheyesh koyach by Merkava. Just like the koyach of the Merkava in the vision of Yecheskel is. Liyez v'chayis neisis sakise. That the chayis elevate, pick up the chair. That's what it says in the Yecheskel, right? Therefore, the same thing, the Nefesh Abamis, Liyas Bal Yoda, Aliyas LeNefesh Ulikis. It can elevate the Nefesh Ulikis after you refine the beard of Nefesh Abamis. Because the source of the Nefesh Abamis comes from the world of Tehu, which is Lifnei Malach Melech higher than the Nefesh Ulikis. Right? So therefore the ultimate hisapcha is dafka through the nefesh abamis. Because the nefesh ulikis doesn't need to be transformed. He explained before what's the chiddush? That cheshech is made into or. Yeah, that yesh it becomes bittul. That's what the Rabbi explained before. And he said that's what Yitzchak is metzachik. That's the level of tzchik. So he says it has to come through the nefesh abamis. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to continue. Rivka represents behemoth. It says, "V'nei Yuvan inyan b'chinas Rivka, which is milosh and Ravkis shel shalish baker, or shel abba. Rivka, it says there's a pasuk, whatever the pronunciation of the pasuk. Rivka, there's a group of 3 animals or 4 animals. So Rivka is like uniting the animals. That's what the word means. Pirush chiba v'kesher shel shalish behemoth yachtav is called Rivka. Okay? So what does the word Rivka mean? Besides the fact, by the way, that if you think just simply, Rivka grew up in Lavan's house, in Besuel's house. She was Shoshana ben Achechem. She was the rose amongst the thorn bushes. That's his sapcha. Yitzchak grew up in Avram Avinu's house. He was a Oila Tmima. He was a carbon Oila by Hashem after the Akedah. Rivka. But here the Alter Rebbe is saying even the name itself means a binding of animals together.
Just like we know Yitzchak was Bibura, do we know Imot, like Sarah?
I don't know.
Rabbi, can a nefesh elokit become elevated too by this?
Yeah. You read it Tzerech Aliyah. The nefesh ulikis comes down. The nefesh ulikis doesn't need to be fixed. It's pure.
Right.
but it goes higher than it was before. It's the same thing in the Chayes and Merkava Shenklul Umis Yachadim Yachad. They all unite because the Chayes and the Merkava, the Shor, Ari, and Nesher, right? They're not fighting against each other, not killing each other. They're united, elevating together. But Chayes Neis, that's the level of Rivka. So Shalish, Shalish Bakar, which is the Hiskalus of Chesed Gvura Teferes. Because it says, Pnei Aryeh Meyamin is Chesed, Pnei Shor Me'asmel is Gvura, Upamim Shem the Arba, sometimes it's 4-4, which is the Adam ad Merkava, because there's Pnei Aryeh, Pnei Shor, Pnei Nesher. Sometimes Pnei Adam is also counted. That's why the pasuk says Arba Shalish Shalish or Arba Arba. Rivka is binding either Aryeh, the Chesed Gvura Teferes, because Chesed is Aryeh, Pnei Aryeh Yamin, even though it's interesting, Aryeh is the same letters as Yira. But anyway, but the Aryeh is Chesed and Shor is Gvura, and Nesher flies up, that's a combination of Chesed and Gvura. So Rivka is the one that binds all those levels of the Nefesh Habahamis together. Chesed Gvura Teferes Malchus. Okay? The Avis of the Merkava, Chesed Gvura, right? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And who's the fourth part of the Merkava? David HaMelech, which is Ragla Revi, it says in Kabbalah. David HaMelech is Malchus. Just like you have Pnei Aryeh, Pnei Shor, Pnei Nesher, and Adam is Malchus. That's the level of David HaMelech. V'zeh shekazeh b'Merkava is Yechezkel. Chayvris ish ala chesa. It says they were bound, each one to the sister, which are the chiba v'iskalus. Shaydei zadavke the chayis nesis. Mishum shaydei iskalus v'chibor midas yachtov. By uniting different opposite midas, I'll explain in a second. It elevates to a very lofty place. And they bring down from a very lofty place where all the midas are united. In other words, he's saying like this. Okay, he's going to say there's scholars in the midas. But the Rabbi is explaining over here like this. That through unity, Bittul, we were discussing this last night at the class. You have Chesed and Gevurah, okay? You have the head, the heart, okay? You have in art, you have in sports, you have in the art, different contrasting colors come together, okay? Blend together in harmony. The only way it works is when harmony means is bittul. So black doesn't stick out as black, and white doesn't stick out as white, and yellow and green, whatever it is. Each one's just bottled to the cause. The head and heart are l'chayr opposites. The head is cold, the heart is warm, right? It's a whole different world. Right? One's intellectual, one's emotional. Intellect, emotional is contradictory. Right? Intellectual person by nature is cold. So how does the body work? The body works because the head doesn't feel itself as a head, and the body and the heart doesn't feel itself as a heart. There's one cause, one purpose, one mission, to be a healthy human being. A healthy human being doesn't feel himself. You don't feel have a head, a heart. It all is bittul. Okay, the same thing in sports. You only win a game if everybody works together. There's no my, me, and you. It's us. You know what I mean? Everything works like that. So he says, the whole inyan of midas, of chesed and gvur, which are mamish opposites, eish and mayim, so eish shalom b'mreimel, the Eibishter makes peace between Michal and Gabriel, b'tzar shamayim, tzar shalesh. How can there be bittul of that sort? How can there be achdus, unity, shalom? That's only through the level of bittul. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining over here, through the chibur of the midas, then you reach a level that is above seichel and midas. That's why they can be united. Huh?
through the
Levushim, yeah. Now, Derech Zeh Yuvan B'Avedis Hashem Ba'Adam, the same thing in Avedis Hashem. Sheyesh B'chinas Eskalus Hamidas Ava V'Yira. When you have Ava and Yira functioning together, this Eid is Rachmim Al Nafshi. And then you come with the third level of Tiferes, right? Which is Rachmanis. That you have Rachmanis and your Nefesh. That came down Ployim. Wondrous levels all the way from all the way up, all the way down. Nika B'chinas Rivka. Shal Shalish Bakar. Shemidas Nefesh Abamis Mizbarid Miklipas Neiga. And Elam Lavaya. Okay? So he's saying like this. How do you have the ultimate tzchaik? Through elevating Nefesh Abamis. How do you elevate the Nefesh Abamis? Well, there's unity between the midas of the Nefesh Abamis. The whole Nefesh Abamis wants to serve Hashem. Right? That's the level of Rivka. So what does it mean? Hine Yitzchak metzachik as Rivka ishtay. Yitzchak's tainug was to the level of Rivka, which is the binding of the Nefesh Abamis together. Bittul. And then he says, that's why the pasuk says in a Rivka Yaitzeis. When Eliezer came to the well, the pasuk says Rivka Yaitzeis. Where's she going out from? Deeper. She Yaitzas me klipas neiga. She's leaving klipas neiga v'sapra ha'sheichel in the and transforming darkness to light. Sometimes it's arba when you count malchus in it, which is Kabbalah so malchus shemayim, v'avedasa eved, ki aveda vayirim shnei mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah to love, to serve Hashem. There's a mitzvah of fearing Hashem, right? So these are two separate mitzvahs. So that's why it says also, why is the first shidduch mentioned in Chumash? We learned already in the previous weeks. Avram Sarah, the Zayir says this in the Shaman Guf. Yitzchak, the first shidduch, is Yitzchak and Rivka, also Neshama and Guf. Yitzchak was Kedusha Eila Tamima. Rivka, Shoshana Ben Achechem, she came from these evil places. So that's why the Torah elaborates so much on the shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka, because it's the fundamental aspect of the Neshama coming into the Guf. Right? So Yitzchak is the Neshama to a certain way, and Rivka is the Guf. So here's explaining why is Rivka the Guf and Nefesh Abamis, because Rivka means to bind the three cattle, right? Or Arba cattle. Depends if you count Chesed Gevurah Tiferet, or do you count with the fourth leg, which is David, which is Malchus, which is Kabbalah Seil. Anyway, bottom line is that Rivka Yaitzeis, when she's coming out to the Shidduch, she's coming to meet Yitzchak. That means it's already starting the shidduch between Neshama and Guf, Yitzchak and Rivka, for the purpose of elevating Tzchek Asali Elikim. So that's why where Rivka comes into the picture. Rivka represents the level of the Nefesh Abamis, that's binding together all the midas of the Nefesh Abamis to be bottled to Hashem, and then you have the shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka.
Rivka was quote unquote very strong. She was a strong lady. Nefesh Abamis. She fed 10 camels with water.
At 3 years old, according to Rashi.
You know how much water a camel drinks?
I mean, I saw a few camels every so often, but okay. Yitzchak, which is time she is Galala Asalavai, so he's bringing down Rivka Ishtay, like you said before, the Nefesh Abamis, which is from Tehu, which is higher than Tikkun. And then, by the way, and just continue with Yitzchak and Esav, Yaakov and Esav, Tehu and Tikkun. Yitzchak wanted to elevate Tehu, that's why he wanted to give a bracha to Esav. Right? Yitzchak by V'yishtach Yaakov Malachim, Yaakov again. Tikkun thought he's going to elevate Tehu, therefore he brought the Gemalim, trade for animals, right? We learned that, in the Maimah. So, why? Because this is the whole Avodah, this is the whole Chumash Bereishis telling us the stories, like we do every Shabbos now, the lessons from the stories From a detail in the story that the Chumash says, there's complete life lessons. And that's like the Ramban says, Ma'isa Avis similar Mabanim, not only what happened to the Avis is going to happen to the kids. But Chassidus explains, Ma'isa Avis similar Mabanim, what happened, because the Avis did it, that gives us the koyach to do whatever they did. And that's the whole, starting from the beginning with Adam and Chava, Cain and Hevel, and everything has its concepts.
And just like Rivka was Yitzchak's Besher, do we know who was Yaakov's Besher? Rachel?
Rachel.
Rachel was Yaakov's.
Therefore, in Dalu Ragli Merkava, sometimes it says Avram Yitzchak Yaakov David, like you said here. Yeah, but it says that Iyar, Aleph Yud Yud Reish, is Avram Yitzchak Yaakov Rachel. Sometimes it's Rachel, sometimes it's David. Both were Malchus. So then sometimes it says the fourth regal is David, and sometimes it says the fourth regal is Rivka. That's why in Shchunarach, in Even Ezra, it says, how do you write Iyar? The month of Iyar. How do you write Iyar? So technically you write it Aleph Yud Reish. But Iyar halachically is spelled with two Yuds. And Yashim Refecha, but then one Yud would be enough too. Yud Kevavki is one Yud. But it says in halacha, why do you write Iyar with two Yuds? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Rachel. And that's what the month of Iyar is, the four things that's connected to the month of Iyar, which is Sfirat Zaymer. Everything is into this one big challenge. No, but when you learn Chassidus like this, it makes things fall into place that don't make sense otherwise.
Delicious cholent.
Delicious cholent. Without the hot sauce. That kills the cholent. Huh?
With pressed.
No, the hot sauce is we're learning Aseli Matam, we mentioned, talked about last night also. The Rebbe says in Tanya, Aseli Matamim. But Yitzchak told Yosef in this week's Parsha, Matamim plural. But Yitzchak one time is not enough. He needs two delicacies. One for Yitzchak Avinu, not these. He liked Yosef because he gave him a good steak. I mean, retarded to think that way. Okay. So what do you mean? What did Yitzchak like? So the Torah came out of Yosef. Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Meir, Unclus, all the Gadim, the Roman Gadim, the Shmai and Naphtali, the teachers of Hillel and Shammai, it all came from the Roman Gadim. Okay? So that's what Yitzchak loved in Yosef. But why did he say Mata'amim? The Rebbe explains in Tanya, there's two types of delicacies. There's a sweet one and a hot sauce one, to use your language. There's a hot sauce one, a bitter one, a sharp one. Some people enjoy bitter stuff, sour stuff, and some people enjoy sweet stuff. So somebody could say, okay, sweet, I understand, is a tiny. What's the pearl out that Rebbe says in Tanya, if somebody faints, God forbid, you don't give him sugar to smell. You give him something strong to smell. Dafka that is Meishivas and Nefesh. So there's two Avedas, because Al Rebbe asks in Tanya, a Beinoni can never become a tzaddik. But also tzaddikim, you have to be born with the ability to be a tzaddik. You have to try, but maybe you get from somebody else. But the bottom line is a Beinoni can be a tzaddik. Right? So what's the purpose? Lama Yarden is saying Leilam Azed, Al Rebbe asks. To fight, and never win? Can you imagine? And you're never going to win. But fight your whole life. What is that? So Al Rebbe explains in Tanya, no, that's a time of David that has the sweet smell, the bitter fight of the Beinoni, not like the tzaddik.